Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. Mr. Brother Bayan here to bring you a quick lesson. Prior to get started, I want to give infinite honors and prayers to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahushai, Ba'Hashem, Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, you Akim, you Akwad, which is your brothers and sisters in Hebrew that believe. All right, and this is going to be a real quick lesson in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Okay, going into the diversities of the body. Okay, because we know coming into this to this truth, man. You know, you could the first time that you walk on the block, and however, you know, brothers ran into, you know, the street teachings of the bros, of the Akim Salakit, you know, it was always somebody, you know, in that group, you know, part of the body that you could understand, you know, better than others. Okay, not saying that brothers is, you know, poor and teaching and this and that in some type of way, but you know, for some people, you know, we all learn differently. All right, and if you have somebody that's like truly relatable to you and can break down words to you that you may know, you know, that is on your level, you know, that's the reason of why the Lord made the body so diverse. All right, you know, for example, you know, they got some brothers that maybe be coming out of the world as a, you know, a street jake, you know, who pretty knows everything with the lingo of dealing with the street. All right, but they also have some brothers that's very articulate and was probably in that college world before. All right, they got some brothers that was, you know, probably in the suburbs and, you know, pretty much only understand, you know, everything in that manner. All right, you can't talk to a suburban brother in street terms, you know, because he may not understand it. All right, but again, that's why the Lord, you know, gives that diversity of the body. So when we are out fishing, you know, through the lessons, or you know, the brothers that's still on the block, on the highways and byways, you know, it's a way that another fishing tool to seal the elect. All right, but just to jump straight into it, this is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 4. It says, now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. All right, and there are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. All right, so there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. All right, it's all being spoken in 144% truth. All right, you know, no matter how it's explained, but you know, again, some brothers may need it explained in a more simpler matter, you know, and one brother maybe won't be able to do it that way. Okay, but it says, and there are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. Again, you know, it's all powered by the Spirit ultimately. Okay, and it says verse 6, and there are diversities of operations, but it is the same God which worketh all in all. All right, you know, just pretty much still reiterating what I'm saying. All right, and there are diversities of operations, but it's the same power which worketh all in all. All right, but the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal. Okay, so, you know, when that manifestation, you know, of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal, you know, it's for you to ultimately grow. All right, that's the only way that you could, you know, grow in the Spirit. All right. It says, but it's like verse 8, it says, for to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Spirit. All right, again, they got some brothers that's real, very, very articulate. All right, and they could, you know, use many deep words, you know, that could grasp somebody's ears to intrigue them more and make them want to listen. But also, you know, a brother could hear that's just coming in this thing and just like, oh man, like what does that mean? Like, you just speaking gibberish to me right now. All right, but it also says in the same verse, it says, for to one is given the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge. All right, by the same Spirit. All right, and brothers just got experience all across the board, you know, in many matters. You know, they got brothers that is well traveled in the world, You know, it's brothers that may know different languages, you know, and so on and so forth, you know, just to be able to relate when it comes to teaching, okay? But it says, for to one is given by the Spirit, the word, so I read that already. Verse 9, it says, to another, faith by the same Spirit, to another, the gifts of healing by the same Spirit, all right? And, you know, when it comes to the healing, you know, brothers always is big on that, you know, healing properties and, you know, getting into the herbs and everything and pretty much knowing how to, you know, create some concoctions to heal brothers, you know, a natural remedy, you know, may I say, you know, like brothers have those gifts, you know. I believe that goes into like botany or something like that. But, you know, just very familiar with the herbs, okay? It says, to another, read the verse 10, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discerning of spirits, to another diverse kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues, all right? So again, let's start from the beginning of that one. It says to another prophecy. So, okay, they got some brothers that is very knowledgeable, you know, when it comes to the breakdowns, and, you know, is very good with the history that could align everything and just, you know, create a better picture for you, okay? It says to another discerning of spirits, all right? They got some brothers that's just very vigilant, all right? And they could spot something, about you that, you know, others may not see, all right? They may catch things quicker because they just could discern it, all right? They could understand it, all right? They can understand that, all right, he's not right, or he is, you know, I can see he's all right, he's a good person, all right? But this it all just works in one, you know. But it says to another diverse kinds of tongues, to another interpretation of tongues, what I said earlier. All right, they got some brothers that may speak different languages, you know. Some brothers may speak Spanish, you know. Brothers could speak French or whatever it may be, you know. All just to relate and get the word off, all right. But it says, but all of these work at that one in the self same Spirit. So like, but all these work at that one in the self same Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will. All right, for as the body is one and hath many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Hamashiach. All right, so again, you know, all of these members of the body, it all goes back to being one. You know, one moving piece of work. You know, that ultimately is just gifts from Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Okay. You know, and, you know, that's pretty much the gist of this quick lesson, man. You know, you got to find your niche when it comes to coming and growing in this truth, okay? You know, you want to go ahead and get aligned with something and master that, all right? If you believe that you're good with prophecy, you're good with whatever, such and such, you know, you just want to grow and build on that, okay? And find your role at the end of the day. All right, because every brother has their own role and their own duty, you know. That's why we're the body, all right? And the analogy of the body is why, because, you know, got fingers, got a hand, got eyes, got eyebrows, you know, got lips, got a tongue, got teeth, all right? And it's all different, you know, the things that they do, but again, it all goes hand in hand just for the body to work fluently, all right? But I pray that this lesson was edifying. Prior to get out of here, I want to give infinite honors and prayers to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Kakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, Yu'akim, Yu'akwath, which is your brothers and sisters in the Hebrew that believe. And Shalom.